This talk is a special talk, I suppose, introducing the Dark Brotherhood as well as I can. They're not easy to talk about. They have been veiled. Of course, everyone knows of the forces of evil, and people have read about the devil and all of that from the Bible, and they've had the Christian misrepresentations of it. And you can read all of that stuff and the way that the Inquisition has worked. The concept of evil from the point of view of hierarchy in the most uh, obtuse or obfuscating way, meaning that all you've heard is the exoteric dogma and doctrines, and all the religions speak about it, Orma and Ariman, and this type of concept of duality. But what they really are and how they really work is something that most people in most religions do not know. Of course, people have heard of the word of sorcery and black magic, and they know of such things as sex magic and witches' covens and that type of thing. And that has also been veiled. A lot of that type of teaching comes from the Kabbalah, the left-hand aspect of the Kabbalah in the Western world. But all over the world, there's also the shamans practicing all forms of magic. There's magic for healing, magic for causing death, the forms of magic to cause rain showers or to destroy houses, whatever, to produce childbirth or crops growing. There's always been these shamans on the planet, and they do both good and bad effects depending on the type of shaman they are and how much you give them for whatever purpose you give them money. So that has always existed, and this is all part of the folklore of our world. And you can read books on them, lots and lots of books on witchcraft and so forth. And of course, most of you are aware of such civilizations as ancient Egypt, where there was a lot of magic practiced. As a matter of fact, the Egyptian religion was high in magic. It was either white or black magic. The whole religion was taken over by black magic, or the followers of Seth and Horus. And of course, the Anubis, the one who embalmed the dead. But there's, since time immemorial, there's been a war going on between the white and the left-hand path. At one stage, when we go really far back into the hoary mists of time, there was only what we call the left-hand path. What we now call the forces of evil, the further you go back, was the norm. The evil is just the good that we've left behind. You can think of it in terms of your childhood. A lot of things that you believed in then and what you did is no longer pertinent to what you do now. Those attitudes of being a child has been superseded by being an adult. And likewise with the evolutionary history of humanity. In our philosophy, of course, we go into Atlantis, and the Atlantean civilization was sunk because of the evil in those days, because of the black magic, because of the sorcery. It goes on in a very vast scale. But in our philosophy, we don't just stop at ancient Atlantis or Egypt or any of these ancient religions. We go further back, and we go all the way to past planetary systems. Most of the people on this earth are aware of the fact that they die and they go into a heaven or hell state. And the hell state that people go into, of course, can be the result of being black magic or being extremely hateful or spiteful or selfish and all the rest of it, whilst incarnate. But what I'm trying to get to here is that it's the astral plane. And so the astral plane, or an astral plane, exists on all the planetary spheres in the solar system and all planetary spheres in our universe. There's an astral form. I don't particularly like to go that far away as the universe. Whenever I speak of the universe in our philosophy, we're speaking of the local universe, which constitutes this portion of our galaxy that you can look up and see as the stars of the night sky. And the highly enlightened beings on this planet can travel to those stars. It's not something that you need UFOs and physical plane implements to build. You travel in the realm of mind. Everything is linked by mind. There's been evolutions of other planetary systems in the solar system before this Earth was. The Earth is just one of what will be 5 planets that bear life or have borne life in the solar system. There's one more to go. And life evolves via an animal kingdom, or from the mineral to the plant, from the plant to the animal, and the animal to the human to the superhuman. And it goes on until eventually all humans become what the Christians would call God. In our visioning, as someone such as me, I can look past lives all the way back to Atlantis, and then go back to the moon, and then go back to some of the earlier planets that had life on them and still do, such as Mars, and then you go back even further to the former solar system. It's very difficult to trace the type of consciousness or life that was on the former solar system, but there you have the origination of what we call Dark Brotherhood, what we call the forces of evil. Everything came out of what is now real sorcery, hatred, everything for the self and so forth. What people regard as magic is normally astral plane magic, using the energies of the solar plexus center to acquire for themselves what they wish by psychic means. Black magic is the process of manipulation and control of other beings, other things, for the benefit of the individual. All billionaires are black magicians. They're totally focused upon manipulating everything and everyone with their power so they become richer. And everyone is impoverished as a consequence. So that which manipulates, dominates, controls, works to destroy the freedom of expression of other individuals, of all kingdoms of nature, of all types of life on this planet, and then later on in this universe, then you have what is called black magic and black magicians. There's different degrees of it, from petty selfishness of the average human being, where they do everything for themselves. I, the me, the mine. They try to mass resources. They take from others whatever they can in order to produce a prettier home, bigger car, fancier lifestyle, being able to go and do all those pleasure trips that everyone enjoys, but it's all based on selfishness and self-centeredness on the whole. That is the lesser form of black magic. And then you can extend that all the way through to those that can manipulate on a vast scale, using every means under their control to do so, and to abuse people, to abuse all forms of life. We have, for instance, somebody here in Brazil, and of course we all know of the destruction of the Brazilian rainforests. They say nothing of the rainforests in my country here, Australia. This cruel, wanton, absolute, callous destruction of life on this earth. Billions of plant species and insects life and birds and all of that are destroyed so they can grow a few soybean farms or for cattle grazing, so people need a bit of meat. That's also a form of black magic. And when it's extended on a vast scale, then it starts to degrade the whole life of this planet, destroy its infrastructure, its ecosystem, or for greed, or for a little bit of money, or masses of it, or whatever it is. And everyone suffers. Nothing is benefited. So you have that form. And then, of course, it goes all the way through to our politicians and law enforcement officers and our mass media, who are controlled by the powerful, by the power that money has to manipulate, to control, to dominate, to rule everyone else, to make the laws that they must obey. We're all suffering now through the tyranny of this pandemic. And it gets worse and worse, and it's going to be, super duper coronavirus this and the next super duper coronavirus. There's black magic again. You can see this aspect of ruthless power to control, to dominate everything and everyone on this planet. And then, of course, you get the US hegemony over the whole world, the military-industrial complex. It doesn't matter how many million people die overseas because the billionaires that run the military-industrial complex make a lot of money out of this. They can buy their private jets and planes and have their yachts and whatever and their high-rise buildings. Yeah, okay. It was bought by the blood of 3 million Iraqis or X number of million Vietnamese and so forth. But it was worth it, as Madame Albright said when she was, said when she was asked about the death of 500,000 children and that in Iraq. Oh, she said, oh yeah, it was worth it. That's the way they think. There's zero concept of humanity. It is everything for me, my, mine. And it starts with petty selfishness of individuals, of humans. The inability to share resources, the inability to give, and so forth. Of course, most humans, most average humans have got love and there's selfishness within them. They're nice, friendly people. They'll go out of the way sometimes to help you, and some won't. Depends on how much involved in the dark side they are. Now, coupled with this exoteric form of black magic, you have the psychic forms, where people do rituals. And they work with yogic and occult means to generate psychic power. And it's done in group formation. And so there's a whole host of, or not a host, but a number of beings that evolve great psychic power. And we have terms for these, of course, when it comes to basic sex magic, it's coven activity, witchcraft, and then ruled by a sorcerer when it comes to somebody who has real occult power. And all of the great religions have their occultists, there are black magicians amongst them that can manipulate and control and dominate people's minds and emotions. Not that I really care about petty emotions of the average human beings, because they're meaningless. I can control them easy. It's those that resist the will, that resist the desire, this attitude to be dominated by the others, where the forces of evil clamp down on. Of course, in our Western world, we can see it quite clearly, where in America specifically, you get a militarized police force. They come out in armor and all of their weaponry to clamp down on any form of dissent. And other countries, of course, mine included, have their versions of this type of militarized police force. And it's dissent that they clamp down on. We live in George Orwell's 1984 on steroids. If any of you have read the book, you know what's being talked about in this particular society now, because we have mass surveillance and so forth. And he never ever thought of vaccinations as a mechanism of control. So there's this other side that are, as I said, the Dukbas, the shamans that have gone the black way, and the black magicians, the sorcerers. And it's the same as with the white hierarchy. We meditate, we work upon our minds, we control our emotions. And the sorcerers do the same. They meditate, they control their emotions. They're one-focused, one-pointed to control and manipulate. And any being that stands in their way, they will attack. It's the same with the police states that we live in. If there's an organization that stands in the way, they must be attacked and suppressed. There's no real difference. Now, I also started off by saying, yes, there's more to this than most people dream of, because we all follow reincarnation. We believe in reincarnation. We looking at past lives. We know that we've incarnated in Egypt, for instance. Nearly all of you, if not all of you, have been yogins in India or in Tibet or both. Otherwise, you would not be here. And in those countries where yoga was common, then you have a great deal of sorcery practiced. I've been in India off and on for over 10 years, and it's very hard to find a yogin that's not involved in left-hand attitudes. In Tibet, the Rinpoches and things almost don't exist that have any real knowledge anymore. There's a few Nyingma and Bonpa that have psychic powers, but the rest, they have an exoteric understanding of the doctrines. I won't go too much into this, but what I'm trying to get to also is that the roots of black magic and sorcery is far vaster than most people imagine. It's not a few individuals here now on this planet with their sex magic groups and so forth that are conjuring up spirits and attacking others. It's actually highly organized and comes from our last solar system, and in other star systems, similar processes. Wherever you have incarnation, there you have imperfection. And wherever you have imperfection, there is the evolution of Dark Brotherhood. It's basically that simple. There are star systems in this planet, in this soul, and now a local galaxy that have been taken over by the forces of evil. Maybe you saw them psychically, it's a cancer. Suns turning black, planets turning black, as they have been taken over by dark forces. This is evil on high places, as it's called in the Bible, or in cosmic sources. In Atlantis, if any of you actually could look at it psychically, you'll see at the end, streams, hordes of black UFOs came. The sky was almost blackened by them in those final wars. Each black UFO is a coven. There was the odd white one, but swamped by, because they come from other star systems, from other planetary systems, where evil has taken over. It's the same as in your body. Most of your bodies are healthy all the time. If you can think of the phagocytes in your bloodstream sort of attacking the viruses and all the other disease-bearing agents, and to keep you healthy, that is the White Brotherhood. But every now and then, the forces of sickness and disease take over. That is the Dark Brotherhood. The Dark Brotherhood produced sickness, disease, and death. White Brotherhood worked towards producing healthy, vital life, consciousness, radiance, aura,